Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Central Intelligence. I'm Reese Smith.
And I'm Cecilia Quinn. This week we uncover the subterranean history of Springfield. We also spend a day in the life of a young horse.
Stay tuned for these stories and more, because this is CI.
Beneath the streets of downtown, a forgotten symbol of Springfield is uncovered.
Director Grant Pickett digs into the past to discover a bottomless well.
Going through this basement, looking around, trying to find anything that looks like it could be a well, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking for. But while I'm in the basement, facing south, I see a hole in the wall about 7-8 feet up. And I'm thinking, man, I really hope it is not through that hole. I send Steve some of the pictures that I'd taken and I ask, is any of these connected to the well? And Steve confirms that no, none of those were the well. It is through the crawl space. I recruit my colleague, Jaden Melnick, who bravely agrees to accompany me. And the two of us return to the National Audio Company. We trudge through the mud, and we get into the crawl space. My name is Brandon Broughton. I am a local history associate in the Local History and Genealogy Department of the Springfield Greene County Library. My involvement with the bottomless well of Water Street began whenever I stumbled upon a newspaper article from 1909 written by Martin J. Hubble. In addition to being an engineer, he was also something of a historian. And this article is about various events in the early history of Springfield, most of which are, uncontroversial, verifiably true. But then in the middle of it, there is this bit about him pumping 1 million gallons of water out of a bottomless well that had once belonged to John Polk Campbell. This struck my interest for a couple of reasons. It's connected to a figure who's often seen as sort of the founding father of Springfield, but also there's this claim about a bottomless well being somewhere on Water Street, downtown Springfield. And, I'm thinking, if John Polk Campbell had this supposedly bottomless well, surely that would be something that was marked, something that was the location of which would still be, well known. And I dug into it, and I found that I was unable to find any other reference to a so-called bottomless well. And I didn't expect to actually find anything. I thought it'd just be a sort of fun dive into an urban legend that also, promotes the resources we have at the library. So I start digging, and the first thing I do is I look at the information that we do have, which is that the well was on East Water Street, west of Milligan's grocery store, according to Hubble. So the first question is, okay, where's Milligan's? This is 1909 Springfield City Directory. As you can see, a lot of them are in pretty rough shape. But you got to think they were not expecting anyone to be using these past 1909. So I used this whenever I was trying to figure out where Milligan Grocer Company would have been. And there it was, Milligan GD Grocer Company, Wholesale Grocers, 331 Water Street. And that was the geographic anchor for the initial part of the search. Okay, so East Water Street extends from there to the corner of Water Street in Boonville. It sounds like it's going to be on the north side of the street, and today there are only 2 structures that correspond to those locations. There's the Andy's Frozen Custard corporate office, and there's the National Audio Company. So I figure if either of these buildings is somehow connected to a historical bottomless well, they're going to use that for press, right? It's good PR. So I'm searching through the newspaper archives looking for any story that mentions either of these businesses in connection to a bottomless well, a well at all, John Polk Campbell, and I'm finding nothing. And I'm starting to think this kind of might be the end of the line. But I'd stumbled upon this reference to a cavern beneath this building on Water Street that was now the National Audio Company. So I made a call. I asked an unusual question of the folks at the National Audio Company, which was, hey, is it possible that there's a well or a spring or just, a hole in the ground with water in it somewhere in your building, possibly in the basement? And I am put in touch with the National Audio Company's co-owner, Steve Stepp, and he confirms, yes, it is here in the basement. And he fills in some of the gaps in the history for me, which is excellent. But then even better, he invites me to come take a look at it. It is sort of like a skylight where at the surface you can look down into this subterranean body of water. So in a sense, it's not a well. It's also not bottomless, but the illusion of bottomlessness is there because it's connecting to a larger subsurface hydrological system that apparently extends across most of the urban core of Springfield, at least as far east as OTC's campus, and then possibly as far west as the Doling Park Cave. That experience of being in that crawl space, looking down into that well, was a really uncanny sort of glimpse into like this cross-section of Springfield's history, because there's the geological history that is the foundation of the history of the Ozarks that affects, settlement patterns, agriculture, what grows here, what animals are here, in the limestone. And then there's the fact that indigenous people, knew about this well, had been using it for thousands of years possibly. And then there's the Campbells, who, are often sort of seen as Springfield's founding family, even though that's complicated, who at some point looked into this well and decided that they were going to settle here. And because of that, Springfield is, what it is today. And then there's, Edwin Hubbell's grandfather doing this massive engineering project to try and turn this into a public waterworks. And then it's forgotten. It's buried under layers and layers of infrastructure as Springfield grows. And on top of it now is an audio cassette manufacturing company. So that's already sort of an interesting cross-section of history. And then there's, me and Jaden, two local history library staff members in 2025 that are sort of just there at this crux of all of it. And, if we did a good enough job, if I did a good enough job, then there's whoever watches this in the future, whoever reads it in the future. It's this ongoing piece of history that is continuously found and used and forgotten and rediscovered. And it also just happens to be the founding site of Springfield and Greene County. So it really is just sort of rich with I think, significance. In the article I wrote that it's not literally bottomless, but in a sense, you keep digging and there's just more and more there all the time. So it was a really, really interesting experience, something that I surely will not ever forget.
Powerful stories come in all shapes and sizes, regardless of who or what they are about.
Director Lily Bartlett invites us to spend a typical day with the unlikely athlete in training.
figured out when I pull on her, she goes to the left, just like driving a car. Sweat off of her. We spray her with this and then we clean her up.
Keep your hair looking good.
Get rid of your sweat marks. That feels good, huh?
Back in there.
Flowers can bring joy to many, making any occasion feel special.
Director Victoria Lee visits local florist who spends his life crafting beauty for others.
I have a mantra that I say all the time: I'm so lucky and everything works out for me. I say that on a regular basis, multiple times every day. So anytime that something doesn't go the way that I had anticipated it going, I just see it as like, well, it wasn't supposed to be that way. And I carry that into my floral design. So there was a product that came in subpar. And I said, well, I'm so lucky, everything works out for me. And I called my vendor and I was like, hey, did you see these dahlias? And she was like, no, what's wrong with them? And I told her and she was like, oh my gosh, I'll credit it back to you. What can we replace them with? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what's comparable to dahlias. And about an hour later, the Missouri Flower Exchange, which is locally grown flowers here, and she came in and she was like, hey, do you need anything? And I said, actually, do you have any dark purple dahlias? And she said, yeah, I've got 3 bundles. And that was exactly how many I needed for my wedding. I was like, I'm so lucky, everything works out for me. So I feel like if I just kind of keep that mindset, then whatever hurdle that I have to get over, I'll get over it. And a lot of times it ends up being for the better anyway. I'm fortunate enough to work in a place that lets me be really creative and expressive with my art, you know, like getting to arrange with such a beautiful medium as flowers. I personally wouldn't have it any other way. Being a florist, you cannot help but notice natural beauty when you're outside of work. I'm able to really slow down and see things that a lot of people I feel just walk past, matter of recognizing it and helping others to see it too. One question that I'm asked a lot as a florist is, how do I make my flowers last longer? How do I get them to, what do I do to keep my flowers alive forever? And I just tell people they're not supposed to live forever. Fresh cut flowers are a great reminder that, time is precious. Life is short. There's beauty everywhere, but it's fleeting, and you have to look for it and appreciate it when you find it.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Central Intelligence.
Be sure to check out our other shows on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram at @CHS_CI.
We'll see you again soon.